And welcome back to another episode of the Real Conversations podcast. I'm your host, Jacob O'Connor. Real Conversations podcast for those dedicated to doing hard things and living a meaningful life. Today, after 2.5 years, I'm back with Bryce.
Has it really been that long?
Yeah.
Wow.
So we were just talking beforehand and you commented on like, wow, you've really stepped up the podcast equipment. And then of course we're recording in the restaurant and not where we used to be at. And yeah, it's been since November of 2022 since we did our last episode.
Wow.
Isn't that crazy?
I feel bad I've dodged you that long.
No, it's a good thing because
Yeah.
I was totally abusing you. You were like the new cool kid on the block. I found out about you on episode 7, and then you came on episode 14, and then you came back episode 28.
Yep.
You were on every time that number doubled.
Yep.
And
What episode's this?
This is 138.
Wow.
Isn't that crazy?
That's insane.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's now we actually have a lot more to talk about because I would imagine doing it every doubling of that period was a little bit redundant.
Yeah, I don't remember much. So I'm sure we've got quite a bit to talk about. And obviously we're doing it in here, which is awesome.
Yeah, it's cool.
Yeah.
So just to remind people, you are the founder of One Life Spirits, which is comprised of Vida, Tequila. You've got El Trago. You've got
Laban and High Post Vodka.
And High Post Vodka.
Yep.
So that's super cool. We'll probably get back and touch your story a little bit, but I want to start off by asking, what's new? In the last 2.5 years, what's new?
I mean, Laban and High Post are the two new ones. We didn't have an American portfolio.
Mm-hmm.
I think 2 years ago, we wouldn't have had our American portfolio. So my other business partner, Demetrius, he has a distillery in Union, Missouri, that we partner with. And so Demetrius is a phenomenal person that I'd love to have on at some point. He's a 8th generation sweet corn farmer.
Oh, seriously?
And a 6th generation distiller. So we do everything in house, which once you start to dive into a lot of your brands, that's very uncommon. It's not a lot of people source alcohol. They source their grains and everything like that. And so he has land in Atchison, Kansas. He has land in Union, Missouri. And so we're able to blend Kansas and Missouri sweet corn as the base for those products, which is really cool. It's funny. I get it a lot, but how much these two states dislike each other, but we're constantly trying to bring the two together. My business partner obviously having ties in Missouri and me having ties in Kansas is just constantly trying to blend the two in the Midwest. And so being Grain to Glass is really cool because we get to kind of oversee all of it from step one to final product. And so Laban is our orange whiskey. It's our take on a American Grand Marnier or Cointreau. So it's like his family are also Satsumas orange farmers in Louisiana. And so it's a whiskey base that he brings those oranges up. He's able to put them in a whiskey barrel, let them soak.
The same guy that does High Post?
Yeah, Demetrius.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. And so he's family of farmers. And so again, not having to really source anything out is really cool. And then on the vodka side, we're 80 proof on all of our flavors, lemon, lime, and espresso, as well as our base vodka being sweet corn, which gives it some good characteristic, but is gluten-free, non-GMO, fully American farmer made, which is really cool here in the Midwest.
Okay, you got to introduce me to Demetrius. That sounds sweet.
Yeah, he's cool. And he's super knowledgeable. And Demetrius, I'm sorry if I butcher this, but, molecular biologist and botanist.
Good Lord.
Yeah, is just a wealth of knowledge. And I believe his wife is an engineer of some sort. And again, that's where I may be butchering this, but the two of them are incredibly knowledgeable. Forged his still himself. So he kind of takes everything from the Louisiana Territory, soil, copper, water, everything like that. And then everything he grows in house and is just able to make some incredible alcohol. And so the tasting room is open now. In Union, Missouri that people can go to. It's called Nobleton's Distilling House.
Oh, wow. So they own the distillery, the manufacturing as well.
Yeah. Yep.
Wow.
And so that's where High Post and Laban are made. And then we actually produce El Trago there now. So El Trago that's an agave spirit because we make it with Espadín instead of Blue Weber. We buy it by the tanker. And then we ship that tanker from Jalisco, Mexico up to Union. And then we put it in totes, and then when we're ready, he distills it down.
Hey guys, Jacob here. Real quick before we get back to the episode, I just want to take a quick second to say, if you guys are enjoying this episode, please make sure to share the link with a friend. You may have noticed I don't run any ads in the podcast. In fact, I don't make any money off the podcast. It's quite the contrary. Over the past 5 years, I've invested a lot of time, money, and effort into the growth of the show, trying to continually upgrade the equipment, bring on better guests, and just improve the overall quality of the podcast. So if you guys are enjoying this episode or if you enjoyed previous episodes, please share the link with a friend. Sending it to 1 or 2 people makes a huge difference for me on the back end. As always, I appreciate your guys' support. Let's get back into the episode.
And then we bottle it there.
That is so cool. Yeah, that was one of those things growing up, like the idea of vertical integration and like taking the raw components, compiling them, manufacturing them. Like none of that was interesting, nor was it sexy to me. Like being the end producer, the person who actually has their brand on the bottle or whatever, that was always the cool part.
Yeah.
And then now, as I've dipped my toe into honey with my cousin,
yeah,
we have a family farm as well.
Yeah.
And so it's just advantageous to raise bees up there. And so we purchase our own hives, we collect the honey, and then we have a really small spinner that spins it right now. But we're trying to go from 1 hive to 2 hives and then increase production.
Yeah.
And we're running it out of the shop up there in their little farming operation. And so like the actual like growing that into a warehouse and manufacturing, all of that is becoming super intriguing to me.
Oh yeah.
So it's super cool that that's what his family has done and maintained that control along the way.
A lot of history in his family, and just the stories he can tell, obviously back again 8 generations, and this family variety of sweet corn that has been passed down to him, the same yeast strain been passed down to him, kept alive, everything like that he still uses to this day, which is just incredible to do. But again, you have a lot more control when we can sit down and say, here's what we want to develop. How are we going to do that?
Yeah.
And then just start playing with stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm going to make a comment here. So the sun that is coming in here from the west
side,
it was cloudy before you came. Otherwise, I would have moved this because I've ran into this. If people were watching with Dane Laughlin as well, if you scoot your chair back that direction, you will avoid the sun better. So just going to apologize in advance. Feel free to move as you need to.
We just had a random snowstorm here in Wichita.
Yeah. And it left like 30 minutes ago.
Yeah.
I was not expecting the sun.
I didn't even know it was supposed to snow today.
Yeah.
And then I was just sitting at a meeting and it started and it came down pretty good today.
It did.
And then now it's done and here comes the sun.
Yeah. I was driving to pick up my podcast equipment and it was a little slippery on the roads, just out of nowhere.
Well, that's the Midwest. That's Kansas.
It is, in fact.
Yeah.
Diving back into it. So I was hiring a new employee today. We got a new server coming in and I was looking at her documentation and I was like, where are you from? She said, Jalisco, Mexico.
Really?
And I was like, why do I know that? And she was like, well, all tequila's produced there. I was like, I know a guy who does that. So you got me bonus points, Bryce.
That's awesome. Yeah. I leave Thursday. So I'm down Thursday to Thursday in Jalisco. So
heading for better weather.
Yeah, I hope so. That's the plan. So one of my business partners down there, he's got his wedding anniversary that we're going down.
Sweet.
It's taking Katie for her first time. She's never been.
Nice.
So she gets to come with me Thursday to Saturday. And then Tati, who's our employee here in Kansas, gets to come down Sunday. And she'll be there Sunday to Thursday. So
is this a little bit of relaxation or is this solely work?
A little bit. So Thursday to Saturday, for the most part, will be relaxation. Zach's fiance and then my wife Katie are coming down, and so their first time, both of them have never been down, and so a little bit of relaxation for a few days, but then we'll be down there for work all of next week. For the most part, is why Tati's coming down and learn about it, and we revisit our profile. We've got some new stuff coming out.
That is so cool.
Do all that, yeah.
So remind the listeners, it has been 2.5 years. If they're a new listener, why did you start Una Vida and then how did you do it?
Yeah. So Una Vida, we were able to launch the product May of 2018. Both Zach and I worked in the industry, different brands. He was working for a startup tequila brand. So that was kind of where that idea came from, at least to stick with what you know. Have been traveling down to Jalisco, building those relationships, kind of saw an opportunity here in the Midwest. Like I said, Zach's from right outside St. Louis and I'm from Wichita, that we kind of saw couple things. One, a lot of tequila brands, none actually ever focus on the Midwest. It's California, New York, Florida, Texas, Arizona.
Yeah.
And then eventually, they'll sell to a distributor here, but they don't ever put feet on the ground. There's a lot of loyal people in the Midwest, and there's a lot of drinkers in the Midwest. It is what it is. And so we decided both of us were living in Colorado when we started it. And we decided when we launched it that he was going to move back to Missouri. I was going to move back to Wichita. And we would just start it from scratch. And again, we've been very fortunate in our relationships that we've built across these 2 states. I mean, we're in 9 states, but these 2 states alone have been very good to us. Bartenders, servers, industry people, liquor store owners, breweries, consumers in general. We've had that hospitality that people have been very good to us.
Yeah, I'll admit I'm not a big tequila guy just in general, but John has become quite the tequila guy.
Has he?
He has. Even though I'm not a big tequila guy, every time we go somewhere that serves alcohol, I look for Una Vida tequila. And then I make it a point, if I see it, I grab the bartender whoever's there and I'm like, you guys have Una Vida tequila?
Yeah.
And they're like, yeah. I'm like, Bryce? And they're like, yeah. Because you make it everywhere. That's the cool part about I feel like that's the Midwest approach in doing this, is like you make it a point to be personable and actually get to know the people that you're working with, even like the employees that are serving it.
Oh yeah. I mean, we've always said those are our best salespeople we can ever. So, treating them right, learning their names, spending time with them. It's one thing to just come into a bar one time, sell them on it and get it on the back bar. But then you've got to continually build and, get it off the back bar so that they reorder. And so if you can educate the staff and then you can become friends with the staff, then they want to sell your product versus having to sell your product. And so it's a long-term play that requires us to spend a lot of time at a lot of bars and restaurants and liquor stores and whatnot. But, again, we're very fortunate that people are receptive to it and are actually listening and becoming, like I said, I back in like 2019, when we first moved back, I didn't really want to stick around in Wichita. None of my friends lived here anymore. It was kind of just like, I'm going to work on Kansas as a short-term thing, and then I'm probably going to move to, I had lived in Denver for a while. I loved it. I lived in Dallas for a little bit. I loved the bigger city. And the more time I spent here, all of my friends are industry people now. And even you guys now are industry people now, that all of my friends, and I'll never go anywhere. I love Wichita. It's easy living. They're good people. And like I said, I have some of the best friends everywhere I go. I can go anywhere and I'll run into somebody that I know.
This city just sucks you in.
It does. And again, like I said, my wife and I are both from here. And we're very centrally located, which I like. I'm 5 hours from Dallas. I'm only, 2.5, 3 hours from Tulsa, 7 hours from, Denver, 7 from St. Louis, 3 hours from Kansas City. Like, it's not that far from everything, but it's just a very easy life here. Growing up here too, I don't need Google Maps unless somebody is on their phone on Kellogg, which happens every day. There's not terrible traffic for the most part. And you just can go everywhere and have a good time. Cause like I said, I usually run into somebody I know everywhere I go. Yeah.
That is the nice part, is especially with the restaurant, just having people come in and it's like, wait a second, I know you.
Yeah.
And it's just, well, I guess it helps that we're building regulars now too. So we're also growing our network at the same time. But I just feel like there's so many people in Wichita where you just see them 24/7.
You do. Yeah. It's those people who are out and you just almost start to feel like one giant family here. And that's what I like about Wichita.
It's pretty great.
Yeah.
So what was the thesis or the prevailing thought? Why the name Una Vida Tequila?
Yeah. So did you ever meet, I know you've been to First Form a few times, but did you ever meet Brian Teach?
Once.
Okay. So Brian's the one who actually came up with it.
Oh, seriously?
Yeah. So we were leaning towards that life, in general. So Nueva Vida, there was already a Pura Vida and a Dolce Vida. And so we were leaning towards that life in general, that us taking that leap. And obviously with First Form having the one, he was like, why not Una Vida?
Oh, yeah.
And it just like clicked. And we were like, we love that. And so that's where that you only have one life kind of came in. And so we went back to the drawing board on the logo and everything like that. And we've just gone full force. You only have one life, live to the fullest, and try and do that best we can through our marketing and our events and everything we do in our communities.
I love that message. Remind the folks of your First Form connection and why that's relevant.
Yeah. So, 2016, sounds about right. 2016, Zach, being from Missouri, he's the one who was telling me about supplement superstores, which I had never heard of.
Right.
And he was like, I'm listening to this podcast. So he got me hooked on the MFCEO.
So good.
Great podcast. And reached out to Andy about going to pour tequila at one of the Summer Smash events. So we went out there and poured, and kind of told him the story of what we were doing. And he genuinely listened and was interested and everything like that. And he was advising us without realizing he was advising us. And I don't think he realized we lived in Colorado. And so we were driving, 14 hours from Denver to St. Louis. And we would just take these little nuggets when they were at their old headquarters, and we'd go back to Denver. We'd change the label. We'd do this, we'd build this, whatever. And we'd drive back and sit in their lobby and just kind of wait till he was available. And there were plenty of times where it was a wasted trip. We'd drive there and we'd drive back and not see anyone. And we would do that back and forth until a connection happened that him and Chris, his business partner, just kind of asked us what our situation was financially. And, Zach and I bootstrapped it. There was no plan B. There was no, if this doesn't work out, both of us happen to be, have this career choice. It was this or nothing. And he loved that. And so they came on as our only investors from day one. They're not, a typical angel investor or anything like that. They haven't, as far as I know, at least at that time, they had not invested in anything.
That's so cool.
And we're just kind of like, hey, we're too invested in this now. Like, personally, the amount of time you guys have come here and bugged us, we want to be a part of this. And we're very fortunate. I mean, this, and some people don't know this, but if you do know First Form, the culture that they built. And that's what Zach, was bringing to my attention when he first brought it to me was, this is what we need to do in booze. This is what we need to do with our community and our bartenders and our servers and everything like that, and find a way to do it the way they're doing it. And so that's kind of the direction.
Yeah, the First Form has had such a profound impact on me too. I don't have as cool of a story as you do, but just listening to the podcast growing up and then eventually getting to interview Andy and then have Sal on as well. It's like, I knew whatever I did, that culture component was going to be huge, especially if it was a consumer facing business that we were doing. So that's been something that John and I focused on heavily. And even this week, actually, we just finally formalized it. It took a quarter, but we put together a document that it's called the Another Broken Egg Way. And it has basically it has our standards, it has our culture defined, it has all of that. And
do it early.
At every employee we have that comes on now, we'll get those documents. And at the end, we have a culture quiz where you have to go back and answer questions that pertain to our culture and how we operate. All that type of stuff. And it's like, those are the intangibles that most people wouldn't think about or wouldn't have cared about. I know I didn't. But then after hearing Andy's story and listening to the podcasting and interview him, it's like, I'm convinced now that is a huge piece of what allows people to win is the culture component.
Yep. Those key core values that you stick behind, and that's why you're building regulars. It just allows you to build a personal relationship with each one of the people that walk through your door. And then that trickles down to your staff that they know these are the items that I need to do that are the Another Broken Egg way. And then I will, do the same thing. Yeah. And so that's the same thing that we're trying to get our staff to do. We have a hard time with our business model a little bit because it's so hands-on. We don't have a brick and mortar location. We don't have a headquarters where everyone can come in and roo-rah every Monday morning and then all of us go out and sell. It's everyone's in their own pockets on their own, and you've got to be a go-getter alone because we can't hold your hand. We could try, but again, all of us have very busy days that we've got to find people that are really motivated on their own and want to go out and do it.
What are some of the ways you found that were effective for building culture in a non-headquarter environment, in a situation where it's virtual employees?
It's definitely comes from Zach and I. That's a hard pill to swallow. I know you've probably read The Extreme Ownership.
Jocko.
Yeah. And it's, you just come back to it's your fault. At the end of the day, it's your fault. And that's him and I not prioritizing enough time to train virtually and monetarily spend money on the training side and just expecting people to get it because they watch us do it. And so that's where we're going back to that drawing board on spending more time in these markets, spending more time virtually, prioritizing weekly. We have all company calls, but we also have market segment ones that, I don't need this market on this call if it's only pertaining to this city, stuff like that. And just trying to build that culture within our group too, so that our staff members are talking through ideas across state borders. And it's not just people's egos that they keep it to themselves. So we've tried, I've got everyone coming into town in 2 weeks. So we'll try and do more training and stuff like that. Internally, all that costs money though. So it's just kind of like, you got to be good about when to do it, where to do it. We tried to do it around a lot of our big events, like 12 bars and stuff like that in St. Louis, but it ends up just being hey, here's a giant party to come to, versus like, hey, this is really business and we need to actually accomplish items and you need to learn from this, versus here's this cool event that we sponsor. So just trying to get better about the leadership from him and I standpoint, because I'm so used to just, I make my list, I accomplish my list, my phone goes off the entire time and I knock out what I need to, that I haven't really made sure that the people underneath me are also have the tools that they need. I don't have a structure that was put in place for us. Zach and I have to create those from scratch. So those training models and everything like that, him and I are still learning what makes sense, what doesn't make sense, what we need to be training people on versus what's a waste of time right now. And again, him and I don't live in the same state either. So getting time for him and I to come up with that stuff together is a whole nother piece of it.
Yeah. Well, and it's probably difficult because you and Zach have your standards, the way you do things, and that is like the output, but to understand the input of like, why do you do this? Why does it actually matter? Like when you have employees, that's where that piece comes into play. If it's like, well, Zach and I have always done it this way, but in order to actually get the employee to want to do it, you need to explain why that way matters.
Yep.
And that's probably a big change of pace. I know
it is
for me at least.
Yeah. And we try and do, and I'm not going to know all 10 or 6 off the top of my head. We try and give a lot of the books that we've discussed over the years that help kind of show why we do the things we do. There's that Jim Cook and Fizz and Quench Your Thirst and Unreasonable Hospitality and a lot of these books that have these little nuggets that I'm like, if you're like me, you're not going to remember this entire book.
Yeah.
But there will be that one thing you take away that's like, oh, that's why they do that.
Yeah.
And those are most of the things that we've learned over time have just been from those. So
I'm curious, switching gears, when you and Zach were in Colorado just getting started and deciding to drive all the way to First Form, and just for the chance to meet with Chris and Andy, not even guaranteed, like you had the times where it didn't work out. The amount of times I've found myself in a situation where I'm willing to bend over backwards and do just highly unconventional things to try and meet with someone. It doesn't make sense logically, but yet you do it, I do it, plenty of other people do it. Why did you guys do that?
Yeah, I mean, and Andy and Chris never intentionally did anything. They didn't realize we were driving from Colorado. And so things come up that I got to reschedule.
Right.
And so there would just be times where we would do that entire drive because we had a meeting next day at 1:00 and then they would reschedule.
Yeah.
And it's like,
well, I guess my question is, why are you willing?
Why are we willing to do it? I mean, we were willing to do anything.
Yeah.
Una Vida. I mean, again, both of us quit our jobs and this was it. This was one way or another, we were going to make this work. I moved in with my sister in Dallas at first for 8 months.
Yeah.
And then I moved in with my father-in-law for 2 years. Zach moved in with his mom for 3 years. And then he still lives with his mom, but now he pays the rent.
Yeah.
And they moved into a better place. But, like there was no other option really. Like again, and that's where I think everyone looks at entrepreneurship as this glorious thing. And, oh my God, that looks like so much fun what you guys get to do. And we were having that conversation earlier that it's just problem solving on a day-to-day basis. Most people can't handle the stress. They want to quit. And most of the time I throw my phone. My wife watches it and she wants to talk about my day. I'm like, no, I'm home now.
Yeah.
I don't want to talk about my day. And then there's blips of fun in there, but the most of it's just problem solving on a day-to-day basis. Something is always going wrong. In one market or another, one country or another, something's going wrong in New Mexico. The labels were put on wrong. The corks are all breaking. The juice doesn't taste right. Freight truck, one of our freight trucks got hit by another car one time. And so then they had to wait to another freight truck, gets held up at the border. There's just always something that happens.
Good Lord.
And so again, back to why we're willing to do it. I'm fortunate and I've learned that this is uncommon. Maybe you have too, that me and Zach have the same mentality and the same drive, because I've learned a lot of business partners don't last. And again, I'm fortunate that both him and I, we've joked that the saying we've said since day one is we're too stupid to quit.
I love that.
And it is just purely because I don't know any better.
Yeah.
I don't know any better. Both of us are, both of us were athletes. Both of us played football our entire lives. That I don't know anything else other than to just work.
Yeah.
And I'm struggling with that now that, now that I have my daughter and whatnot, I am struggling like separating personal life because I've never really had like hobbies or any, I shouldn't say never, but like in this business world, I haven't had, it's 7 days a week. There's something every single day. And if there is an open day, I fill it.
Yeah.
I find something to fill it with, like as far as a tasting or an event or a promo for some reason. But like, I've never known any different than other than just do it. If there's work to be done, there's no title between Zach and I, like you're the CEO or I, there's nothing like that. It's just, if something has to be done, one of us will get it done.
Yeah.
And so, again, we're just too stupid to quit.
When you do have like off time or a chance to take a break, do you feel angst or guilt or any sort of negative emotion?
Oh yeah. Well, I do it. Obviously my daughter's going to be 8 months. Yeah. 8 months next week. And my wife too. My wife and I have been together 16 years. That she deserves time with me off my phone.
Yeah.
But yes, I do feel guilt because I sit there and I'm like, well, my business partner is probably at a bar right now doing a promo.
Right.
And I'm on my couch watching TV. And so I'm like, if we do this as a family, can I also have my laptop with me? Because I do have a list of stuff I can knock out. And so I do feel guilt. I constantly feel like every hour can be filled with something. But I'm trying to do better at, I can cram from this whatever time I get up, which also depends on how late I'm doing a promo at a bar and stuff like that. And I will cram as much as I can during the day so that I can open up more time to be there for my family, which is important. But I'm very fortunate too. The city went ahead and dubbed my daughter Tequila Baby, is what they call her. And that's awesome. And I'm very fortunate that she goes to a lot of bars with me. And so Katie and Reese will come whenever they can.
Yeah.
Any event that's daytime or whatnot, I bring them as much as I can with me. And like I said, my daughter's held by other bartenders and managers and owners of bars that she's just going to grow up in the industry.
She's your best saleswoman.
She is. She's adorable. And, she gets out there and helps me sell it. And so she's got apparel. She's got hats and onesies and all sorts of stuff.
Oh, that's sweet.
So I try and take them out as much as I can. But yeah, separating the two has been tough.
Yeah. I'm curious, like when you go home, you've known Katie for 16 years. Like, do you guys talk about business? Do you try not to talk about business at all? Like how does your relationship with Katie, with you being such an ambitious high performer?
It depends on the day. I mean, there are certain days where absolutely I don't want to talk about it. Yeah. But I'll never hide anything from her.
Yeah.
So it's always good to talk things out. I'm a definitely someone who bodies, just keeps things in. But it always helps to talk things out, even if she doesn't have a direct role in my company. It's another perspective that, there are certain things I can talk to her about an employee or this event or, and she's helped me with events for years.
Yeah.
And that goes back to the Bloody Mary mix that we used to do, that she used to come to events and stand at a table and talk through products. And that's where I'm actually, I'm very excited for her to get to come down because she's learned through me and she knows more about tequila than most people will.
Yeah.
That she stands at the table when I need her to and helps me pour and does cocktails and stuff like that. So no, I'll never hide anything. I just think it depends on the day. There are certain days where I'm like, I don't even want to relive what happened today, and let's just focus on family. And now I'm home and we'll deal with that. But other than that, no, we talk.
Yeah. It's cool that she's so supportive because
Yeah.
if you have a negative energy drain in that situation, it'll just make life 10 times harder.
Yeah. Again, I'm very fortunate that I have a wife that, again, was willing to allow me, her, and both of our dogs to live with her dad and my sister for 3 years, and supportive. And that doesn't even include what we did in Denver. And again, the entrepreneurship journey, I was having a talk with someone today that was like, so did you ever actually work for anyone else? And I was like, well, yeah, I mean, I worked at Freddy's, I worked at Walgreens. And they were like, no, like an actual career. I was like, no, I've been an entrepreneur since day one. I interned at UBS on the finance side. And I quickly was like, this is not for me. I cold called all day long. And that's fine. There's a sales aspect of it, but it wasn't for me. One way or another, I was going to find something that I was passionate about and how to do it. And yeah.
I was looking at your LinkedIn profile, refreshing myself before you came in today. Number one, you have no bio, so that's not very helpful.
No, I don't spend as much time on LinkedIn as I should. I always forget that on a business side, it is a very useful tool.
Yeah.
But I feel like 90% of my industry, like bartenders and servers, are not on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
Like it's not like a tool that people are chatting, but it is where business owners.
So you say, think about your end consumer. Who drinks the most? Probably an entrepreneur.
Yes, correct.
But number one, no bio. Number two, I saw the UBS wealth management on there, and I was like, really? Yeah. I don't remember that happening.
Yeah. No, one on the bio side, I'm trying to do better this year. I hate talking about myself. It's just not a thing. To me, I like talking about the person who's, you may see it on our page. Zach and I are both that way, that we're trying to get better at, people buy from people and they want to see the face behind it. But we've always done a good job of just focusing on the bartender pouring it, focusing on the server, focusing on the account, that we're trying to do better at that. I always feel like a douche anytime I write something about myself. I'm like, nah. And so I just don't end up doing it. But as far as, UBS, when I was a junior in college, I got an internship at UBS Finance in Kansas City. And I moved and lived with my sister again.
Great sister.
Yeah, in Kansas City. I love my sister. And so she opened up her house to me, and I lived in Kansas City, and it was 4 a.m., suit and tie there. I got a list or like Excel sheets that I was supposed to clean up. That were old, outdated cold call lists. And then I'd have to sit there and update the cold call list and just pick up the phone, call one person, see if I can get their date of birth, how old they are, when they're planning on retiring, because UBS wants to reach out to them about their retirement program.
Oh, man.
Whether or not they still work there. Now they work over here. So I just get these massive databases of freight companies and everything like that. And I was supposed to help clean up, and then I would try and get them to come to these seminars or whatever, that, they would get a free steak dinner or something at a nice steakhouse. I mean, UBS is a huge company, that they would be able to come, and then they would talk about wealth management and everything like that. So I would just sit there one at a time all day long, cold call, and then update, and then try and send emails and just update spreadsheets and these databases.
And that didn't sound like a fun way to spend the next 40 years of your
terrible.
life.
And I knew it wouldn't always be that. I just was like, nothing about it was that exciting to me. And so, when I went back to K-State, I was like, that's not what I want to do. Again, great learning experience. I enjoyed the people I worked with, but
that's a rough one.
Yeah.
So I'm curious, like, as we talk about Una Vida, you starting it and then growing it, like whatever units are quantifiable or meaningful for you, but like, can you kind of describe the growth of Una Vida from where you started to where you are now?
Yeah. I mean, we started just Missouri and Kansas, and then went from Oklahoma, Texas, Iowa, Arkansas, Nebraska, Illinois, Tennessee. And, Missouri and Kansas alone have doubled in growth year after year, which has been awesome. But I didn't realize that was not uncommon. Like, and I started talking to other suppliers who were like, we did like 4% growth last year, and, we were happy about that. And I was like, in the back of my mind, I was like, that's not very good. And we're fortunate again that we've gotten some very good partnerships and sponsors. We're the official Tequila Power and Light in Kansas City, Ballpark Village. We just signed with Mizzou.
Yeah, that's sweet.
This past season. And just so that kind of stuff. Again, Zach and I have a different approach of taking the numbers they project us and just blowing it out of proportion.
Seriously.
And so, when they started, we were supposed to have like 5 draft systems in the stadium. We were expecting this many. We were there. I was there as many as I could. Zach was there for every home game, batching cocktails, 30 different draft systems. Him and I went to every mobile bar. We're introducing ourselves to just the customers standing in line.
Wow.
If we get an opportunity, we're buying them a Tigerita. We're doing a tailgate at every game. That it got to just one season alone, people knew where our tailgate was to come there, hang out at our tailgate, learn about it, get a Tigerita, and just blew what they were projecting on sales out of the water. And so just that kind of stuff has helped us grow tremendously. And, we were just talking about this before, but obviously here in Wichita, just getting ready for March Madness this year is going to be huge for us. Everything's just kind of stars have aligned. We're fortunate that we're in the tequila industry, which tequila is hot right now. It's no carbs, no added sugar, no dyes, low calories, low on the glycemic index. So it's just one of a healthier spirit type thing.
Yeah.
And about a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, Zach and I redeveloped Una Vida and the distillery we were working with to go additive free. So it was a very common thing in tequila that people use these artificial sweeteners and sugars and stuff like that and dyes. And so being able to move to a distillery that, again, we have a little bit more control over that kind of stuff allowed us to hit a new demographic of people as well as keep our same demographic. And yeah, I don't know. We just kind of, I just kind of put my head down every day and go to work. So
I love it. So shifting to like a healthier tequila, I mean, that's the perfect place to be right now. People are very concerned about the additives and the dyes and all of that, as they should be. I'm curious, like, why don't other brands do that? Is it more expensive? Do you need to have a total number of accounts? Like, why is that not the standard choice?
There's a few reasons. A lot of them use the additives because it maybe makes it a little bit more palatable, but they'll start with a much cheaper base product. So the way they're producing it, cooking it, if they're using a diffuser, just how they're producing it will come out not tasting very good. So then they'll start adding stuff to make it taste better so that they can sell it at a much cheaper price point. And then they build a brand around that and it tastes like super sweet.
Yeah.
And, there's a demographic for it. I'm not denying that. There's a lot of people that like just this super caramel tequila. That's just, we've learned over time, our palates have changed too, that I don't like this.
Yeah.
This is not what I think tequila should taste like. And a lot of people are getting that way. So there's just different demographics of who you're selling to. But again, when you're trying to hit a certain price point down there, a lot of these people are making it very, very cheaply. They're cheating, they're cutting corners, using grain alcohols and stuff like that. And then they're adding, again, sugar, vanilla, caramel, just stuff like that to sweeten it so it actually tastes good.
Yeah.
And so that's why I think a lot of those brands do it, and we just don't want to do it.
Yeah.
And we did it in the past, not knowingly, that this was going to become where the tequila industry went, where people want additive free tequilas. And so you just listen to your consumers. I sit on a lot of these Facebook groups online and just listen to where people are going, and they want more authentic tequila. And so, about a year and a half ago, 2 years, that's the direction we went. And now we're very fortunate, that Sandra, who's our master distiller, makes phenomenal tequila and is able to listen and take those notes and make a very good tequila without needing any of that stuff.
Yeah. It sounds incredibly difficult.
Yeah.
So are those the sponsorships, like with Mizzou and the activations? Is that the best way for you guys to grow and get more accounts, is through those? Or what has been like, what levers do you pull to continue to grow?
Our saying's always been bottle by bottle, and it's literally just one bottle at a time. It definitely allows us to hit a larger group of people in one setting. Doing one Mizzou game or the Super Bowl at Power and Light allows us to move a lot of volume, like in one day. But it allows us, if done right, to hit a larger demographic of people in just one single day versus just hitting a bar one day and then hitting a bar the next day, which we still do that in between. It just takes a lot longer. So as of right now, yes, that is our business model. We're happy with our sponsorships. And we're just going to continue to hammer and grow in these other states and these other markets. There's still opportunities. We're doing very well in Wichita. We do very well in Kansas City. We do very well in St. Louis, but you start to parcel out Columbia, which was one of them that we just didn't do very well in up until our sponsorship. And then, we'll work our way to Manhattan, where I went to college, and then Lawrence, and then Salina, Topeka, stuff like that. Just spending time in these other surrounding cities will just allow us to grow over time. It's a long-term thing.
Yeah.
I mean, it too, going from one store to two store to three store, it doesn't happen overnight.
No, absolutely.
It doesn't feel like it's been almost 7 years, but it has.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
So I guess a reflective question on that, when you look at the total number of bottles that you guys have sold, I'm sure it's in the hundreds of thousands or just a large number, somewhere like that. how does it feel knowing how many bottles you guys have sold?
It's good. Yeah. I mean, it's again, it's progressively growing and growing. And obviously adding these other brands has helped us. These other auxiliary brands has kind of helped us when we do sponsorships or we do events, that we can kind of take over more of the bar than just tequila. And that was Zach and I's goal all along, was to have a full portfolio.
Okay.
It was never just tequila. We started with what we knew. Both of us are tequila drinkers. It helps that that's our go-to, but it's always been to have a full portfolio. Just some of these brands happen quicker than we had intended, which is awesome. But no, it's, I don't know. It's just been good growth consistently. Our model has not changed since day one. Like I said, it's every day I'm meetings if they need to be, and then I'm filling in at bars, checking in on bars. We're figuring out features for Chiefs games, promos. Like I said, getting ready for March Madness, come here to Wichita, St. Patty's Day to come here, Big 12 tournament in Kansas City. Then before you know it, it's St. Patty's Day or Mardi Gras in St. Louis. Just all of these massive things. And then before you know it, Lake of the Ozarks is open. And those meetings are already starting for Zach, that he's got to have those meetings. So, and as we grow, we can do more at these events, and take over more of a sponsorship presence. You know, when we started, it was just maybe they were willing to bring on the Blanco. And, you know, that was all we could do financially, was like, we appreciate you bringing us on. But then as we've grown, you know, being able to show up with a tent and some promo girls and whatnot, and actually talk to people, and then take over more of a cocktail program on their menu, and then just grow from there.
I don't know if people realize, like, you are so boots on the ground, like going to accounts, driving all over the place. I feel like every time I look at your Instagram, you're in a different city. You're going to Mexico this week. Like, you are so deep in the weeds of like these tough daily consistencies. Like, that takes a level of humility to be willing to do that, and not to just say, you know, it's been 7 years, I don't need to do these small things anymore. Like, I think that's pretty cool. I'm just gonna give this compliment. I think that's pretty cool.
There are definitely those little things that I still enjoy aspects of it.
Yeah.
I mean, yes, some of the driving, you know, can get monotonous, and it's just a lot of driving, but being able to show up at a bar that is excited that they carry Una Vida, and one of the owners came in and supported us and spent time with the staff. Like, it's fun. It is fun. And I like talking to people. I tend to be fairly social out there, and Zach's in the same boat. You know, he's just doing it in a different state that I need to get better. My days go like this. I'm running 7 Instagram pages that sometimes I forget to just post on my story. But yeah, we're still out there hitting bars and hitting liquor stores and breweries and events on a daily basis.
You're going really hard, man.
Yeah.
Whenever like the moments stack up, and sometimes it's a lot to handle. Like, how do you like to decompress? Is it a workout? Is it an ice bath? Is it a run? I
need to do more ice baths. No, I still work out every morning. The gym right now does not get that warm, so I think this morning it was 30 degrees in there.
It's in your garage.
Yeah, it's in my garage. And the heater struggles, but I still got to work. I did a Peloton workout this morning. It's just a little bit colder, but no, those are still necessary. It's on my list. It's on the background of my phone this year to do some sort of run challenge this year. Because my running has done this ever since. I mean, I told you I did the marathon in 2012. I did another one in 15 or 16. I think it was 16. And then from there, it's just, you get at the runner's high, and then something comes up and you lose it. And then you get in the runner's high, and then I go out of town for 2 weeks and I lose it. And then 4 months later, I decide I want to start running again. And then I lose it. And then it's been that for the last 10 years. And so it's on my list this year to do something challenging in the running world. I don't know what that is. I don't know if it's the 4x4x48 again. If it's, but no, it definitely, working out helps me decompress. Spending time with my family actually helps me decompress, because I am doing better at, like I said, throwing my phone across the room and putting it on Do Not Disturb, and just spending time with my daughter. I'm the youngest of my whole family, so like having a kid was completely new to me. I had never held a baby till I was like 27 years old.
Oh my gosh.
And so this was wildly new to me. I'm fortunate my wife is a first grade teacher.
Yeah.
And, so she spent time with younger kids throughout her teaching journey, that I just kind of listen to her on like, tell me what to do. And I help out as best as I can, but I'm like, tell me what to do. But she's now past that age of like being so fragile.
Yeah.
That, she's giggling, we can have fun and whatnot.
She's getting some personality.
Yeah, she's getting her personality, but that and working out are the two things I do to decompress. I mean, I like I said, I need to do more ice baths and saunas. I need to come to Sweat House.
I was gonna say, have you checked out Sweat House?
I have not checked it out yet. Yeah, it was on my list over these last like 4 weeks to come on Friday, but like most of Wichita, I got sick.
Yeah.
And I was just like, I don't need to be going and running 4 miles right now.
Yeah.
So I didn't.
Yeah, it was smart. Last Friday, whenever we ran, it was like 15 degrees, and we had that blizzard the week before, and so we didn't even think about it. They hadn't shoveled anything. We were running uphill through like 8 to 10 inches of snow, and then you'd hit like a 5-foot snow drift, and you either had to go in the street or try and jump over.
Do you
it.
put any of those like things on your
the guards?
The guards? No,
just raw dog it.
Any of you slipping?
Yeah, there was some slippage.
Yeah.
So, but we just powered on through. It was absolutely brutal. It was pretty terrible.
So where are you doing, like when I see you do these 30-mile runs in the middle of the night, where are you running?
Literally this road. So outside my Broken Egg is Oliver. So I live north on Oliver. Okay. So I'll run through Keachai out.
So you go out past Bel Air, out Keachai.
I'll go out to like in the hundreds, like
just headlamp it and just.
Oh yeah. So, well, my mom's not going to like this, neither's my girlfriend, but I don't always headlamp it.
Oh, really?
No.
Okay.
My cousin Evan came out and we did a 30-miler together to commemorate
I saw that,
his bachelor party. And we went out and we realized we didn't have a headlamp. And he's like, dude, what are you doing? I was like, no, I do this all the time. It's like, it's super slow. It's not a busy road or anything. And of course it was rush hour and there's a lot of cars. And yeah, so I need to be a little bit more intelligent with that.
Yeah.
But usually I just take off in a direction and go.
Just go.
Yeah.
Any music?
Yeah, I'll do music. I'll do podcasts.
Okay.
I'll do silence music and podcasts. Just whatever I kind of feel like.
Yeah. How long does that take you?
30 miles?
Yeah.
That was 6 hours. It was not an impressive pace by any means. It was just raw dog to get done. That was the first run I had done, real run I had done since my ultra marathon like 3 months prior.
My ADD to be going for that long, like 30 hours by myself.
Yeah.
That's insane.
Well, you just have to have enough negative talk.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. And if you keep telling yourself in your head that you need to get it done, then you'll get it done.
If I quit, I suck. That's
pretty much. Yeah. Like in a marathon, at least you're surrounded by thousands of people.
Yeah.
You got all these people cheering. And before you know it, like again, the first 2 that I did, I was like, oh shit, we're at 13 miles. And then now the last 13 suck. But again, that it's just, you're surrounded by so much positivity and everyone else doing it. And you kind of like look over and you'll see someone like, well, if they can do it, you start judging other people that like you're a runner.
Yeah. Like, I could beat that guy.
Yeah, I could beat that person's out here doing a marathon right now. Why am I struggling? So that's easy. But like by yourself, I don't know. It's just insane. Like I've done it a couple times on the tracks, where I'll listen to music and maybe do 10 miles.
Yeah.
But yeah,
I think it was the first time I did 4x4x48. I kind of realized just how good.
So you did do it?
I did by myself. Yeah.
Nah.
Yeah. So I did it by myself and it was brutal, but it was so good because like, especially now we have managers that are twice our age. We have employees that are twice our age. John and I have never worked in the restaurant industry before. And here we are opening a restaurant. Like there's so many reasons to not be confident that I feel like I have to find any edge I can. And I've really been able to translate doing hard things, specifically running, to like, okay, if I can do this, it helps me show up just a little bit better.
Yeah.
And so that's been a huge confidence builder for me, is just doing hard things.
No, it's huge. Can we pivot to this?
Yeah, sure.
I know this is maybe asking questions to me, but how did this come about?
The restaurant?
Yes.
Okay.
Like what made you guys want to do this, go this path, land on this?
We're just following opportunity, really.
Yeah.
So John and I grew up together in St. Louis. We've ran small businesses all throughout college, a podcast since high school. And when John and I were about to graduate, we decided to close down our name, image, and likeness business, player card, working with college athletes with NIL. And he and I didn't know what we were going to do. I actually took a job running a local angel investment group, looking at startups, doing that type of thing. Really cool job. And John was looking at becoming going into commercial banking and doing loans and that type of thing. And he actually moved back to St. Louis. And him and I were just like, we got to find something. Like, we're going to go crazy.
Yeah.
Him and I had both internshiped at Spirit Aerosystems while we were in college, while we were running Player Card. And in that experience, we're like, oh my gosh, I never want to work for a big company.
Yeah.
Like this just sucks.
This sucks.
I mean, it's good for most people, but like the red tape and the mundanity of it was like, I thrive in a more chaotic environment where I'm steering the ship. And so we were trying to figure out what we were going to do. And we decided, well, we've never done anything with the physical location, like retail entrepreneurship. And so I feel like that would be a red flag indicator of, we'll head the opposite direction. You've never done that before.
Yeah.
But for him and I, it was like, well, this is something new we could learn about. We're both interested in real estate. This gets us a step closer to real estate. And so we started looking at franchising a healthy acai bowl concept called Everbowl.
Yeah, I know Everbowl.
Yeah. So
Dan.
Yep. Dan Fleischman had him on the podcast. I had Jeff Finster, the founder of Everbowl, on the podcast, and then a bunch of other franchisees. So we started looking at doing that because him and I are both quasi-healthy people and interested in retail entrepreneurship. And so we're fortunate to have a good network in Wichita of people that have been willing to help mentor us throughout the years. And we met with one of our mentors. We were like, hey, we're looking at some sort of retail entrepreneurship. We're interested in franchising because we have no operational experience. And we're looking at this concept, about a 500 square foot footprint. And so it's pretty low barrier to entry. The investment's pretty low. It's like $100,000 to get into it. And what do you think about this? Like that was literally the question, is we're asking for advice. What do you think about this? And lo and behold, she said, well, funny enough, actually, I just developed a strip mall and I need a tenant in the North End cap. And I was actually talking with my partners about, there's these two, she called us boys because she's older than us. There's these two boys from Wichita State that just won the Shocker New Venture competition for their company, Player Card, working college athletes. They're pretty entrepreneurial and they've never done anything like this, but I don't know. I've just been meeting with them for years and I think this could be a cool thing to do. And so she had that conversation just serendipitously at the same time while John and I were discussing retail entrepreneurship. And so we presented our concept to her and she came back to us and said, well, what if we looked at brunch instead and we just partnered up on it? And you guys run the show and we'll be quiet and let you guys do your thing. And so it's just the most serendipitous, random thing where those two paths aligned and we jumped in.
That's awesome.
It was weird, dude. It was really weird.
So then you guys went down to Florida.
Yeah.
Correct?
Yeah. So we, look at you interviewing me. I hate this.
I'm sorry.
I hate this. So John and I decided that so we need to figure out a concept. We built an Excel spreadsheet of brunch concepts in the US that franchise. Put all of them on a list and then set our criteria for what we were looking for. Was it full service? Was it going to have a bar? Was it quick? And all those different filters. Got it narrowed down to 10 concepts, started hopping on calls, talking with the franchising teams, and then narrowed down to 3 concepts, and then started traveling across the U.S., trying them out, testing the food, meeting the team, and decided on another broken egg. And to hedge our bet, we decided if we're going to invest in, we signed them to do 3 and 5 years.
Okay.
And so as long as the first one works, we'll hopefully move to 2 and then hopefully to 3 is the plan. But to kind of hedge our bets, we decided they have a 6-week ownership training where you go and you learn how to do the financials, how to do X, Y, and Z. We said, what if we stay for 3 months and actually work in the restaurants that are in Florida where the headquarters is based out of and try and get the operations just a little bit under our belt so that John and I are quasi-competent going into this.
Yeah.
So John and I moved to Florida from the end of November.
Well, without a restaurant background, you almost kind of like had to.
Yeah.
We're going to need more than these 6 weeks.
And the franchisor had never done that before. Like they'd never let 2 kids that had no clue. We're the youngest in the system by far.
Yeah.
Like I was 21 years old when we started doing this process. Like this was almost 2 years ago that this whole thing started. Almost 2 years ago. And it was kind of a unicorn story of they never allow this typical thing, but because we were willing to do all this extra work and whatever else, just the stars aligned and here we are.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's been weird. It's very weird.
Very weird, but things are going well.
Yeah,
they're got a good staff.
They're going well. We got a good staff. We're really trying to hammer on culture. And John and I have just we often talk about the dynamic of him and my relationship because we grew up as friends playing basketball, got into business together, and then now it's like people look at us and expect things of us, and we're just like, hey, we're just 2 kids from St. Louis.
Yeah, but
it's like you can't be that way. You have to be the person they need you to be. And so that's been a really fun, like leveling up, maturing process for ourselves.
Yeah. It's definitely a change of pace when people start to look at you as the one with the answers.
Oh, they rely on you.
Yeah. And they're relying on you. And it helps though, because then you start to change your day-to-day habits that you've got other people that are relying on you to get this done.
Yeah.
So get it done.
The constraints have been painful, but so good because no matter what, John and I have to be in the restaurant by 6 a.m. every day because we have to make sure it opens right. Mm-hmm. Like you may have people that are supposed to come and open, but the key word there is supposed to.
Supposed to, yeah.
You can't guarantee it.
No.
So it's like forget about going out, forget about a social life, forget about anything else. Like it's literally go to the restaurant, get out, maybe do a podcast and a workout, then go to bed, or hop back on the computer, continue working, and then go to bed.
Yep.
Like there's very times few and far between where we can do other things, which has been so good for us.
And you guys are open 7 days.
7 days a week.
Right. That's what I thought.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, you just kind of learn over time. Like Zach and I, we talked those first 3 years, it was just him and I.
Mm-hmm.
So, it wasn't like, obviously we still busted our ass, but there wasn't anyone that required a paycheck underneath us.
Yeah.
So it was just kind of working hard to make sure that we grew and put everything back in. And then now it's actually paying people salaries and employee taxes and health insurance and all this stuff. And it's like, it's another driving factor, which is awesome.
Yeah.
But yeah, a lot of people are relying on you to get what you need done on your list. So it's just another driving factor of doing it.
I'm curious about your team. So it's you and Zach, and then do you have folks that are on salary? Are they part-time? Like how many, what are kind of the numbers of
both
your team?
Both. Yeah. So we've got 3 reps right now. And so Kansas City, Wichita, St. Louis.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a little bit of both. We had gone through some people on salary, and then we had kind of restructured that. Him and I built out a very lucrative commission structure that was a combination of hourly and commission.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just kind of how we found people that were good at what they wanted, or at what we needed them to do, without us losing a bunch of money.
Mm-hmm.
And
that's the key part.
I mean, that's just the way it is, especially when you're dealing across state lines. We would constantly go back to, it's our fault. We haven't trained them well. We haven't spent enough time in that market, all of this. But if they weren't getting the work done, which their spreadsheet would show that if they're not doing this and this and this and this, we weren't going to be out a ton of money, because it was just very simple to sit down and be like, well, yeah, you only visited 4 accounts.
Right.
So that's all you're going to get paid for.
Yeah.
And we set people up, we give an hourly pay for promos and tastings and stuff like that. And there's 3 books that we give everyone, that if you read those 3, you don't have to give me an entire book report, but call me, tell me something you learned about those 3. I'll move you up to another hourly.
Seriously.
And then there's 3 more books.
That's sweet.
I give you. And if you finish those 3, then I'll move you up to another hourly pay. And so those are just things that, both of us have said, we're going to have people come and go with this model. I'm not headhunting a bunch of people with a killer salary that, we're going to have we have a lot of industry people that think this is an easy out.
Mm-hmm.
I know I don't want to bartend anymore. I want to work for Vida because I love the brand. I love everything, but then they don't realize the work that again goes into it on a day to day. And especially if you're in another city where you're not hanging out with us all the time, you're by yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And so we created this structure. It's like, if you do the work, you'll make a lot of money. And then I know I got to move you to salary.
Yeah.
But if you don't, then, it is what it is. And I'm not going to be out until I can train you better, or it's just not a good fit. And so we've just kind of had people come in, had people go out, had people come in, and we're moving people to salary that have been with us. And it takes a little bit longer. But again, it has helped us grow that now we can bring in some other people, that are actually good salespeople on salary and stuff like that. But we had to start with a structure that financially made sense for us.
Right.
I didn't have, I can't just go out and offer everyone $75,000 salaries and health insurance and all this. I had to start with what we can. And we found some great people by doing that. But again, here's an account list. Here's a liquor store list. Here's a bar and restaurant list. Go out and sell. Create features like this with cocktails, work with the account. You get paid to do that kind of stuff. You get paid to do tastings at liquor stores. You get paid to do promos for Chiefs games. You get paid to do X, Y, and Z. If you do the work, you'll make money. If you don't do the work, I'm going to make money. That's just how it works.
Well, that sounds unfair.
It sounds unfair, I know, but you'd be surprised how many people. And again, there are certain aspects where Zach and I have come back to ourselves that it's on us for not spending time in some of these markets. There is a slight unfair advantage in St. Louis and Wichita because he lives there and I live here.
Right.
There is a slight unfair advantage, but at the end of the day, there's opportunities that you do just have to kind of go out and build relationships. And so 2025 is a big year for us to spend time in some of these other markets, and grow for some of these other reps. But right now it's the 2 of us, those 3 salespeople. I have one of my business partners that's moving to Houston
That's gonna be a big market
from Mexico. So we'll have someone there. And then we've got, a few people at the distillery, and then obviously workers at the distillery in Mexico too. And then we've got employees or interviews still going for more Texas people.
Nice.
So it's still growing, but occasionally we try and dial it back to our core people and just focusing on them and training with them and how do we grow them versus just throwing more people at us. It just kind of doesn't allow us to work on the people that are working.
How often are you and Zach going to outside resources, whether that's Andy or Chris or other mentors for advice, guidance, etc.?
Me?
But either of you?
Me never, because I don't live there. And so I just, my mentorship is just whoever I talk to here in Wichita. Him, it's kind of on his schedule. I mean, he goes to Jim Schutte, and he goes to Chris and them. I would like to say on a bi-weekly basis, it's up to his schedule too, but he has access to just go there to First Form and have those conversations. I don't, maybe I should pick up the phone more and ask those calls, but he does it enough that he just kind of like relays stuff to me. But no, me personally, I don't really have a mentor.
Really? I'm so surprised by that.
I know. I don't, I have people that try and give me advice, and maybe I don't take it the best because certain people who give me advice, I'm like, you're not in this industry. This advice you're giving me is not really relevant. I'm always polite, but there's just certain people that, you should do this flavor of this. And I'm like, okay.
Where's your raspberry tequila?
And so the advice isn't really constructive. It's just more like, I would drink it if you, like one person will do that kind of stuff. So I don't really have a full-blown mentor or anything.
I guess you're so far into it, you know a lot, whereas
I do, but I don't have like an ego where I'm not willing to listen to people by any means. It's just I don't have a lot of people that again have been in this position to give me advice that's I feel is constructive.
That I could see. It's been 7 years. The difference is John and I are just getting started, but we're calling franchisees and restaurateurs left and right because we're like, hey, I don't know what's going on. What would you do in this situation?
Which is awesome that people are willing to talk to you and like do that type of stuff. I mean, I talk to other suppliers in the industry. So, they may be beer suppliers or whiskey, stuff like that. I we bounce ideas off each other, but it wouldn't be like I've got this one mentor who's built this company and I go to them as far as advice goes.
No, I can see it.
I'm in a similar boat, I guess, where I just listen to podcasts and see if I could take nuggets away.
What podcast do you like?
I listen to The Real AF and I listen to Joe Rogan.
Rogan?
Those are the
nice.
two. Yeah, those are the two.
They're pretty solid. I've heard rumors MFCO is coming back with like a second version.
That's what I heard. I don't know, but obviously it'd be awesome if he does. It's a great podcast and he had a lot of good entrepreneurship people on, but he has a lot of good guests on now. And those are little ones. I go back and forth between like, some of the ones like Joe will have on that are super educational. And I just like to learn about that type of stuff, like the health and wellness ones. And then like the comedy ones that he has are just good, like buffers in life to just laugh.
Protect Our Parks
is so funny.
John and I love it.
And they're long, so I don't always like, I didn't realize until I like spent time in St. Louis, Zach driving from Fenton to St. Louis. I'm like, you got a 45-minute drive every day one way. And then you're going back and forth all day. So he has time. I'm like, I got like 8 minutes in the car, 10 minutes in the car.
Unless Kellogg's backed up.
Unless Kellogg is backed up. Which I know all the back streets. I'll try and stay away from Kellogg if that happens. But other than that, it takes me a while to. Now, when I do these road trips and whatnot, I'm able to hammer out quite a bit of them. But Protect Our Parks is just so fun.
They're hilarious, and after like 2 or 3 hours, they're just incoherent. They're just screaming at that point.
Well, most of them are just really drunk, or they're doing something on the podcast. But it's just funny as hell to listen to them.
They're like, Jamie, can you blur that out? It's so good.
But no, those are my go-to as of right now as far as podcasts, because they both pump out a lot of episodes, so it's very easy to just kind of.
Have you ever heard of the Founders Podcast?
Why does that sound familiar? Maybe.
The Founders Podcast is my favorite podcast right now. It's by David Senra, and all he does is pick a book a week and he just goes super deep into it. It's the history of entrepreneurship of that company. So like he did a book on Charlie Munger with Charlie Munger's biography, and he met with Charlie Munger.
That's
and then he did a podcast about that with the book. And it's 45 minutes to an hour and a half of just like deep, like here's the takeaways from this person's life. Here's what you can implement.
Yeah.
His episode on Sam Walton, his episode on Rockefeller, they're incredible. I've got them cataloged. I go back and just.
Is that on Spotify?
They're on Spotify.
Okay, I'll have to get.
You need to check out Founders. It's so good.
Yeah.
What are you reading right now?
I have. What's the one? I just finished Unreasonable Hospitality again.
Mm-hmm. I've still never read that. I need to.
It's really good. Again, good takeaways on just the service side. You'll take a lot away, obviously, being from the restaurant side. I'm blanking on the name of the book that's sitting on my coffee table right now. It's another customer service one. I'll text it to you. I'm sorry.
Wait, you say Setting the Table?
It's sitting on my coffee table.
But for the first book?
No, it's Unreasonable Hospitality.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I think I said it was sitting on my coffee table is the name of the book, but I can't think of it right now off the top of my head.
Because I just ordered a restaurant book called Setting the Table.
Okay.
And I found out it's the founder of Shake Shack, and he has a whole bunch of other famous concepts. He's from St. Louis.
Really?
He's a St. Louis guy. And so I ordered it, and then I started reading about him. And I was like, wait a second, he's from St. Louis. So I was curious if you had heard of him. His name is...
You saw the whole thing about them doing beef tallow?
I thought that was Steak and Shake. Is that Shake Shack?
Oh, it is Steak and Shake. You're right. Sorry.
Setting the Table. Danny Meyer, St. Louis guy. Had a lot of restaurants in New York, but also started Shake Shack. Customer satisfaction is worthless. Jeffrey, I've heard of him.
It's good.
Okay.
Yeah,
I'll check that out.
They break things up into like segments, but that's where I just started to, realize that certain elements of like me not focusing enough on training for my staff and how important that is. And so that's where we're trying to dial back that. Again, we didn't have these systems. We just sit down and talk and hope that people took notes and, learn that way. And so we're trying to develop better systems, actual training documents and stuff like that, because we didn't have anyone to give it to us. We just have to develop this stuff from scratch, and just investing more time in our team and resources into our team.
Have you heard of Traction EOS?
Mm-mm.
So Traction is an entrepreneurial operating system. I found out about it through Nick Bear from Bear Performance Nutrition. That's what he used to create his company framework.
God, we used to do those workouts. Those were tough.
Oh, yeah. Like the CrossFit High Rocks stuff.
Well, he'd do like 4-mile run and then go right to the gym and work out. I was like, man, I don't have 4 hours to do this.
Well, when you make money off it, you can do it.
When you do it for a living, that's a different story. But they were tough. They were great workouts.
Yeah. But anyways, Traction EOS is the framework he is using to scale BPN right now. So I bought that book, and John and I are trying to implement it. It's really good for framework and documents to think about and processes and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So that could be a good one.
No, I'll have to check that one out.
I start to wrap up. I just got a couple quick questions for you. How excited were you when you saw the first Form Anheuser-Busch partnership?
It's awesome. Yeah. I mean, huge for them. I'm very excited to see that roll out. Yeah. Obviously having Dana White as a partner.
Dude, I feel like that was looked over. Like I said, no one noticed that.
There was a paragraph in there about it. So no, I really don't know as much as everyone else, that they partnered with AB, to roll out something with Dana White too.
I love it. I love seeing the success of St. Louis.
Yeah, but I mean, that is a massive network that is going to be huge to get their name out and whatever the product is, their energy drink or whatnot. And obviously, it makes you assume there'll be something UFC involved. And just to see how that comes.
It's exciting times.
Yeah.
How has it been becoming a father?
It's been awesome. Yeah. It's definitely been, like I said, my wife and I have been together 16 years. I prolonged it as long as I could. She's always wanted to be a mother, and she's an incredible mother, but it wasn't fair for me to prolong it anymore. And I did that selfishly because I wanted to make sure I'm there,
right?
And have time to spend with both of them. And I know I spend a lot of time on the road. I spend a lot of time out. I do a lot of events out. And that's where, like I said, any time I'm available to have them both be there, they're always welcome.
Yeah.
And and everyone knows Katie and everyone knows Reese now that it is great to just be able to involve them as much as possible, but new life challenges, new curves that I've never dealt with before, and learning how to raise a child. And obviously, again, she's only 8 months old, so we've still got a long road ahead of us of learning, but it helps that she's adorable and she's entertaining and, can kind of, just like my dogs can kind of like, when I'm done with work and put that aside, they're there to, bring a smile to your face. So
that's something I think about often is you structured your life to fit you at one chapter of your life. Like it was just yourself and Katie, and you wanted to build the company. And so you put your head down and did that. And then it's like, you want to add in another layer, another chapter, and it was structured in the previous chapter. How do you make that adaptation? That's something I think about a lot. And it's cool to see that you're going through it and finding a way to make it work.
Yeah. I'm just, most people I think would just try and, they work an 8 to 5 and then it's family. And I'm just finding a way to add them to what I already do. Yeah. And integrate them into what I already do. And it's, hey, there's still a lot of work to be done here. So I'm not just going to stop. So I just added someone else along for the ride.
Yeah.
And we just go that route.
I think it's gonna be cool for her to grow up in the business.
Yeah. Yeah. It'll be really cool. Like I said, we take her everywhere and people love holding her and love the giggles. And she was at the Wichita Open when she was like a week old. And she's being passed around at the Wichita Open at a bar with us. And, some people may judge, but like I said, she's going to grow up in the industry around a lot of good people.
Yeah.
And have a great sports system. So I'm very fortunate.
Oh, all of the bartenders and bouncers, whatever else, she's going to be the most protected child in Wichita.
Oh, yeah.
What was I going to say? If your life was a book, what would this chapter be titled?
I feel like fatherhood's definitely at the top of my list just because that's, at the end of the day, what I do is always been for my family. It's been for Katie and me, and then now it's for Reese. That again, fatherhood is probably just the best chapter right now. I'm just going through that, but like I said, she's going along with me.
That's exciting, man.
Yeah.
I'm happy for you. Where can people find you online if they want to connect, reach out, learn more?
We've got a lot of Instagram pages. So One Life Spirits Brands is the easiest one, and that has Una Vida, El Trago, High Post, and LeBon. And then me personally, just Bryce Lob. So keep it simple. Trying to do more entrepreneurship this year. Like I said, I've not done best creating content about myself or the business side of things in the past. It's just all been brand focused. So we're trying to do a better job of that. And that's part of why Zach and I are going down to Mexico. To really kind of show the back end side of things.
Oh, I'm excited to see that.
Yeah, it'll be fun. We've got some stuff coming. And again, just trying to be more integrated with our own brands in the face of some of the stuff that we do.
Nice, man.
Yeah.
You can find me on Instagram at Jacob O'Connor. The podcast is at Real Period Conversations. Bryce, for my last question, looking back in this really cool journey you've been on, what advice would you offer to your 23-year-old self?
Don't quit. Yeah, that's, and I'll offer that. I'll tell anyone that because anything can happen. We've talked about how most days are just stressful, anxiety, problem solving with like blips of fun, but you just never know when that one thing will happen that can 10x your business, and then you just keep going from there. So I'd just say, don't quit.
I love it. Yep. 2.5 years in the making. Thanks for coming back on, Bryce.
Thanks for having me.
See you.